There is a reason Starfleet ships look the way they do. When I first heard about these so-called rules as a kid, I was excited by the idea that there is a logical mechanism to the way Starfleet ships are designed. This gives us a canvas to work from. True, this is art for fiction. These rules are broken all the time. Otherwise, this would be engineering, not art. But sometimes people think they can get away with nonsensical chaos and call that creativity. Building a spaceship of a certain type and style is a lot like composing a certain type of music, which also has rules and guidelines that distinguish it. So these rules were laid out when the refit Enterprise was being designed by Andrew Probert for Star Trek the Motion Picture. Gene Roddenberry himself vocalized the rules, and if you want an extended explanation by Probert, I recommend you search for Trek Yards, Andrew Probert, on YouTube. A link to that interview will be in the description below. There are 4 main rules laid out by Gene Roddenberry, and 4 other rules that I came up with myself, and yet they are what consistently distinguishes the ship as Starfleet. Rule 1. The warp nacelles should always be in pairs. 2 warp nacelles are the standard, and even 4 nacelles are fine, but 3 nacelles is a violation, as is 1 nacelle. So yes, popular ships like the Galaxy X, which has 3 nacelles, violates the rules. Similarly, the old Larson-class destroyers and Nelson-class scouts also violate this rule. But the ships that violate this are pretty rare, and they mostly appear in games. There is a reason why they are in pairs, which leads to rule number 2. Rule number 2, nacelles must be within line of sight of each other, preferably at least 50% line of sight. The idea is that there is an energy field that passes between the pairs of warp nacelles. This energy field is what enables warp drive. This was the original vision, as you can see laid out in this concept work. So sorry Defiant, you violate this rule. I have accidentally violated this rule myself. See my Resurrected Northampton class, which I made a video about. Rule number 3. Nacelles must be fully visible from the front. You see, Starfleet ships collect materials such as hydrogen as a fuel source from space. This is called a Bussard collector, named after the physicist Robert W. Bussard, who proposed the idea. When traveling at high speeds, electromagnetic fields reach out far ahead into space and pull in this fuel. To do this, there should be nothing in front of the collector that would block the collection process. A Bussard collector on a Federation ship normally looks like a red glow, but it can look like any kind of mechanism really, as long as it isn't blocked. Rule number 4. The bridge must be visible from the exterior of the ship. Preferably the bridge should be on the top. But when the Shinzo in Star Trek Discovery had the bridge on the bottom, in my mind that was okay. Because the reason the bridge is on the outside of the ship, and not in a more secure location somewhere deep inside the hull, is that Roddenberry wanted to give these ships a sense of scale. When you have a bridge clearly shown on the ship, knowing the approximate size of it based on scenes inside the bridge, you can get an idea about how large the ship is. The next 4 rules weren't set in stone by Roddenberry, however, they so very much make up what distinguishes a Starfleet ship from others, I thought it important that I include them. Rule number 5. The warp nacelles should be kept some distance away from the main body of the ship. You see, the warp nacelles emit harmful radiation. So if you've ever wondered why the warp nacelles are extended so far out on these pylons, well, this is why. Other powers may not care about protecting the crews as much and have them much closer to the body of the ship, but it's easier to protect them if the nacelles are at some distance away, especially if they may be severely damaged and they can be jettisoned. Rule number 6. Starfleet ships must be clean and bright. The idea of Starfleet is that it's a hopeful force for good. Starfleet personnel also take great pride in their ships, so no matter how long they've been on their mission, they're going to get in space in suits or work bees and clean or repaint the hull regularly. To have a dirty or dark hull is more of a Klingon thing, maybe even a Star Wars thing, but it most certainly is not a Starfleet thing. Rule number 7. Red and blue signage or glow effect are Starfleet's colors. If there are any pinstripes, emblems, etc., this is almost always red with black text. but the ship's engines, nacelles, deflector dish almost always glow a certain blue or red or both. Occasionally in the old style you'll see a little bit of yellow. Colors such as green, pink, gold, or purple just wouldn't work for Starfleet, so sorry Star Trek Online. Rule number 8. The ship's name and registry number should be visible. Now, the registration number or NCC number, if you're at a level of geekdom far beyond myself, can be determined based on the year the ship is launched. There are online databases that help with this, but honestly, it seems a bit OCD to me, because you're going to run into conflicts no matter what you do there. An NX number indicates the ship is a prototype or experimental ship. This was given to the Enterprise and the Enterprise series, as well as the Excelsior, which was supposed to have transwarp drive, but that's a topic for another video. Now here are two things / rules that you really don't have to worry about when designing a Starfleet ship, although you may think you do. Number 1, a structurally logical design. Now I don't know if you've ever gotten a hold of a physical model of the Enterprise, but you can't manhandle those things. The nacelles might fall off, the saucer too. You may think you need to beef up the structure of a Starfleet ship to make it durable, but you don't really. Here's how you rationalize this. First, hull materials of the future have a tremendous amount of tensile strength, and just like modern aircraft or better, they can be warped, twisted, stretched, and still go back to their original shape without breaking. Also, we know, at least by the 24th century, starships have a structural integrity field that holds the ship together. And keep in mind, the main defense of a Starfleet ship is not its hull or armor, but its shields. You can expect Starfleet ships to have significantly better shields than those of rival powers. This allows Starfleet engineers to design the structures of the ships with abandon. The second thing you don't have to worry about that much is a navigation deflector dish. Many Starfleet ships like the Enterprise have a dish in various shapes or forms that emits a special deflector beam and keeps space debris or other hazards from hitting the ship while it's moving. Now this is a good idea, and I prefer most of my starships to have this mechanism, but apparently it isn't an absolute necessity. After all, the Reliant, shuttles, and many others don't have this. To be fair, space is very empty. The chances of hitting something in interplanetary or especially interstellar space, especially with advanced astrogation sensors as an early warning, is pretty low. That is, unless you intend to traverse areas of high debris, in which case I can see why exploration and research ships would really want this. Otherwise, simply using shields will do fine. Well, that wraps it up for the Starfleet ship design rules, space friends. If you are designing a Starfleet or even non-Starfleet ship which violates these rules, feel free to discuss your thinking in the comments below. I quite enjoy reading them. It's quite fun to rationalize a sci-fi universe in an endless attempt to make sense of it. I am relatively interactive with fans. I post often in my channel's community forum, so subscribe to see frequent updates, works in progress, and other interactions there. Feel free to support the channel at patreon.com/resurrected, where you can see full-size images and other works in progress available only to patrons, and a warm welcome to the newest patrons, David Alexander and Scott Early. And if you want to see more Starship work in an easy-to-view format, check out the website at resurrectedstarships.com. Until next time, space friends.